Good
Awesome.
morning, everyone. Welcome to Cup Chat. And we all, I think, maybe most of us have our cups this morning.
Got my big mug.
Oh, I love it. Bryan, no cup for
All
you.
right.
But you don't drink coffee, do you?
I don't know.
Well, mine has tea in it. It's not coffee. It's really
Mine has coffee because it is needed today.
Martina, what's in your? Mine did have coffee yesterday. I broke down and had coffee yesterday.
I've got birds and beans.
Oh, that's
Espresso,
right. You said you had.
bird roast. So, wake me up this morning.
Well, we're super excited to have all of our cups and have two special guests for Cup Chat this morning, which are two of our amazing guides for our Birding the Border program coming up next April in 2021, Bryan Calk and Martina Nordstrand.
Yep.
And Bryan, y'all have all met Bryan before on Cup Chat, but Martina, this is your first Cup Chat. Are you excited?
Yeah, I'm pretty excited.
So tell us a little bit about how you got started birding and maybe some of your birding story, Martina.
So that's always a question I get a lot. So I'll give the slightly longer version, not the I've always liked birds version. But yeah, when I was little, I mean, you can ask my parents. I've always liked nature. I mean, I was always in the backyard playing in the dirt or making ant cities for and just messing around with bugs and watch. I love Steve Irwin a lot. When I was young, so I watched a ton of his show, The Crocodile Hunter. But I think it took me into like late elementary school to really start liking birds specifically. I had a teacher, Miss Petoskey, in 4th and 5th grade. She was like my English teacher, and she made us read books basically about nature. Julie of the Wolves, Hatchet, just all about living out in the wilderness. One of my favorites was My Side of the Mountain, which was about a boy and his falcon. He lived out in the Catskills Mountains in New York. That was, to 5th grade me, that was like the dream to, have your own falcon, live out in the woods, and so I got really interested in peregrines specific for a while, and then that sort of like devolved into other birds. See birds in the yard and try to figure out, what is that? Like we have brown thrashers all over my yard, and that was one of the first birds that I saw and was like, I don't know what the heck that is, and it took me months to figure out what it was. I was like on the internet trying to figure it out, but figured out they were brown thrashers, and that was kind of addicting, to figure out, okay, so this is a brown thrasher, this is what they do, this is what they eat, do they migrate, do they stay here? And then I kind of went on from there. And in my freshman year of high school, I went on my first actual bird walks with my local Audubon. We have a woodcock walk here every February, so you go out in the evening, and we have a spot where you can see. That year we only had 3 woodcocks, but you can hear them painting, and then they'll do the really awesome flight display. So that's really cool, especially late winter, early spring evening. It's really quiet, and all you hear is like the twittering of a woodcock circling back down. So that's really cool. So I went on a lot of walks with them, and just pestered my parents a lot to take me birding about every weekend. So shout out to my dad for putting up with that. He's driven me. One trip, we got up at 4 to drive 3 hours to the beach, and I got a ton of birds for the first time there. Black and white warbler, painted bunting, a lot of coastal birds. So So I mean, I've always had the interest, and I'm sort of one of those people, when I get interested in something, I like to dive deep into it. And so with birds, it's kind of infinite. You can still, I'm still diving deep. I mean, there's so much to learn, from just about any perspective. Do I want to learn more about the specific bird? Do I want to learn more about migration? Do I want to learn more about ID? That sort of thing. So yeah, it's pretty fun.
That's a great story, and it made me think of when I was little and in elementary school, in the books I read the Thoroughbred series, and I wanted to be a jockey. And if you've seen me, I could not be a jockey now. Not be a career choice that would work for me. A slight bit taller than a jockey, and a slight bit wider than a jockey. I maybe could like jockey draft horses, but that's about it. That's fun fact, but fun fact. And Bryan, and I think we know your birding story because we've had the opportunity to bird with you before. But can you give us just a short synopsis, quick dive deep in how you kind of got started birding, real quick?
Sure. So it's kind of funny because I kind of did both of your childhoods there. So I was also out picking up bugs and things, but also reading all the books about horses. And I also
wanted to be a jockey too?
I did. Yeah.
You would be a very, very tall jockey, Bryan.
I lasted until I was about 5 years old, and then after that, I was not qualified anymore.
That horse phase when they're a kid.
Yeah. But for birds, I started with the whole nature deal, interested in everything that moved. And I kind of got into photography around the same time. And
through your 4-H photography project, right?
Actually, just independently.
Oh, dang. I thought you loved 4-H. I thought you were involved in 4-H photography, which is an AgriLife extension deal. But
yes,
okay.
So
Sorry for interrupting.
Yeah, no, I got into the 4-H photography later on. I don't think we had the program going in our county at the time. Oh. So I was taking pictures of all the things I was finding, and at one point, when I was in elementary school, we started our 4-H sheep and goats and raising them out at the Bader Ranch in Bracketville. And I guess I was taking pictures out there, and Jimmy Bader came over, and I was wanting to show him some of my pictures. And he said, my wife, Kathy Bader, she was a bit of a birder. And so once we kind of, connected the dots of, she could go out and show me some things, and eventually I was just ditching the sheep and goats, and I would just go drive around the ranch and look at birds. So it was kind of a snowball from there.
That's funny. I never really thought about it, but I know that they were your bird moms first, but we have the same bird moms.
Yep.
So funny.
Yep.
Just thinking about those two bird moms, all I want to think about is Louisa. That night on the river that they're first birding the border. Oh, she was funny.
Yep.
I keep thinking about, I can't get out of my mind now the phrase, like, I could be a jockey for draft horses. Like, that is still making me laugh. That's going to be, like, my favorite thing from this morning.
It's not even bird related. Cub Chat's full of everything you might want to know this morning. So I think that as we're starting to see fall migration kind of start, everybody will maybe have the unique opportunity to see some rare birds in their area. As professional guides, both of you, what is maybe a very simple ID technique that is sometimes just not thought of? I mean, we all look to color and quickly pattern, but what are some ID techniques that maybe everyone doesn't think of right off the bat that are really simple that people can be utilizing as they see birds that maybe they haven't seen before? Martina, we'll let you go first.
One thing I see people getting caught up on is definitely focusing too much on color and patterns. I think if you definitely like structure of birds is really important. And that's sort of something you really basically do need to get down at, like, preferably, like as you go on, versus like a finch has a different structure than like a sparrow, for example, and they might look similar. They might both be, brown, streaky birds, but a finch is going to have usually, this is always exceptions to the rule, but like maybe a thicker bill, maybe a shorter tail, different, maybe longer wings versus a sparrow, which might be, longer tail, more slim, thinner bill, that sort of thing. So I do see like I've always had actually where at the bird store where I worked, I would have people bring in pictures of rather common, backyard birds, say like cardinals, and there'd be just one thing off about it that, maybe it was molting, maybe it was just missing a patch of feathers and it made it look like it had a dark spot somewhere on the chest or something. And they would get so caught up on that when they kind of didn't even look at the rest of the picture, like, okay, well, it still has the big heavy bill of a cardinal, the long tail of a cardinal. And birds can always be really variable. Sometimes we see leucistic birds out there with white patches. Sometimes we see rarely albino birds, they're just solid white. And that's, at that point, you can't use a field mark for that. Of course, that's rare, but definitely to learn that, I found taking field notes was really, really helpful. That makes you really look at the bird and see, how are these feather groups arranged? How are the, is this a slim bird? Is this a chunky bird?
Fat and fluffy. That's my favorite way to describe them.
Yeah.
Fat and fluffy.
And, of
obviously,
course,
that's what they would call me if I were a jockey too, more.
And sometimes like some birds, can be really variable. I mean, I've seen like mourning doves, they'll be all cute and fluffed up on a cold day, and then all of a sudden like maybe a hawk flies over and they just slim down, they become like super sleek looking. I found for me, I like writing things down. That's really what gets it to stick in my head. So if you're one of those people, I think it's kinetic learning is like where if you learn by like just having an action associated with that. So like for me is writing and drawing. Then you can really learn, the details of a bird. And you don't need to even have to like copy from a field guide or anything. If you do photography, even if your photos aren't that great, you can still draw from your photos, or draw on if the bird's really taking, giving you great views. You can draw from there, and especially for harder birds to learn, like shorebirds, it's really nice to be able to that forces you to look at the subtle differences between birds, and that really reinforces it in your head. So like, okay, this one has a longer bill, this one has a shorter bill, or the color of the legs, that sort of thing. So
gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, and you're both artists, right? You both draw.
Kind of. Bryan more than me.
I don't know about that.
Well, and great. And Martina, we were looking at your shortboard pictures the other day on Instagram, and those are just gorgeous as well. So
thank you.
Great tip about the photography. Mm-hmm. Maureen and I are now professional photographers too. I'm just kidding. We're going to show y'all our pictures. But anyways, fun fact. All right, Bryan, what about you? What's one of those simple tips or tricks that people commonly kind of maybe don't think about or is underutilized?
So kind of, again, going off of Martina, she encouraged, not getting focused on the little tiny details and taking kind of a bigger picture approach and looking at the whole bird. I would also say even take another step back and look at even the bigger picture. Like, where is the bird? Learning the habitats that they use can often narrow down your choices significantly. Like if I'm looking at, a medium-sized songbird that's brown and streaky here in the Southwest, that could be a cactus wren, or it could be, a migrating northern water thrush. But those use completely different habitats. So, if I'm next to a stream bed, maybe it's more likely to be a water thrush. If I'm out in the desert scrub, it's more likely to be a cactus wren. So learning the habitats that the birds use, even in migration, can be super helpful in narrowing down your options.
It's a great idea. Maureen, you have any thoughts on that topic?
I do, actually. The other thing, of course.
I love you. That was an I love you, of course. I'm sure.
The other thing, I totally agree with both of those. Those would be some of my top tips. The other thing is, I feel like this is underutilized, especially today, because apps are so readily available. Get a field guide, and so I don't have my bird field guide next to me. I have my snake field guide next to me. But similar to a bird field guide, the same thing is going to apply, that they're arranged according to type. Oh, Martina has one.
I've got my bookshelf.
Oh my.
And so if I, so for snakes, for example, there are certain things that if I find in where I live in Texas, like if I find something that looks like, you know, a milk snake, like we only would have one type of snake of that. Whereas if I find something that looks, you know, like a rattlesnake, technically there's a few different species of rattlesnakes in this area. And so with birds, like if you see something around here, around where I live, that looks like a cardinal, we've got cardinals and we've got Paraloxia. And other than that, like that shape and that bill structure, that kind of, you know, you're only looking at those two. Whereas if I see something that looks like a sparrow, I've got loads and loads of options. And so I have to like dig a little bit deeper. So I think just looking at those groups of birds that are similar and like the way they're laid out in a physical field guide, as opposed to just looking through them on an app or on your phone, can be really helpful to give you an idea of like how many of that type of bird there are. Yes, thank you, Brian. Yeah. So you can see like, you know, okay, cardinals and Paraloxia, you know, a lot of the country, you're only going to have cardinals. Like that's the only thing that's going to have that shape and size. And then those maps are so useful. Like, you know, there's some things, birds are awesome and they surprise us sometimes in certain places, but usually you're going to see things in typical areas. So, you know, if you're in, you know, if you're farther north and there's no Paraloxia there, it's not a Paraloxia most likely. So I think that I just love having physical field guides. I think that's something that's underutilized, especially today.
Well, I think that's a great point. The range maps, you know, as a very beginner birder, you know, in this, so it goes back to grade school. This is what blew my mind. All right, y'all ready? This is my rant for the day. I can't spell. Not at all. So when you see things misspelled on Birding with Extension websites or Birding with Extension registrations, it's me. I can't spell. Just can't. Doesn't work. And so what I hated in elementary school was someone telling me to go use a dictionary to learn how to spell something. If I knew how to spell it, I could find it in the dictionary. But if I don't know how to spell it, I don't know how I am. She's like, well, you could get close. No, I'm not bad of a speller. I can't even get close. And, you know, so for a field guide, it's really nice as a beginning birder to be able to look at that range map and say, oh, there's no way in any stretch of the imagination that that bird is here. Completely negates it. And so that is very helpful because it's a very graphic representation and you do not have to spell where the bird could be. But anyways.
Well, and so I also just pulled up, because I agree that like with some of those it can be overwhelming, and especially on a field guide when they are all together, you still have a lot of options. So this is where I would use a field guide with an app sometimes. So I just pulled up Merlin Bird ID because it's free. And so a good example right now, so I'll show you all what my screen looks like.
No,
it might not, it's not using that. Okay, anyhow, it shows like for waterfowl right now, it's going to show things that are commonly in my area. So if I see something that looks like a duck, it's a black-bellied whistling duck at this time of year. And so this way I don't have to flip through the whole field guide, and it narrows it down for me pretty quickly. There's a chance it could be a wood duck, a couple other things, excuse me, I'm about to sneeze, that are kind of rare, but really there's 5 duck species listed on here. So that narrows it down pretty quickly. So using this along with your field guide, I think is a good match, a good pair.
Together, we will ID the bird.
Together.
Yes. So I hate to move us along a little bit, but we only have 8 minutes left. And one thing I want to get to, because I think it's unique to have 2 professional guides on the screen. We are going to have 6 professional guides that we are very excited about at Birding the Border. And Bryan is our professional guide at our Learn to Bird program. And I think it's important for people to understand why we think our professional guides are so awesome and why that's a benefit in versus, you know, like me just taking you out birding on one of the ranches. You know, I can show you all the same places they're going to show you. So why is birding with a professional guide unique, beneficial, and what's the difference in y'all's perspective?
Bryan, you want to go first?
Sure, I'll go first. So for me, having a professional guide, it's kind of about efficiency, I guess, in some ways. If you want to go to a place and you're only going to be there for a couple days and you want to see all these great, amazing birds and all these amazing places, and you want to know as much as you can about them, going and wandering around on your own is not going to be the best use of that time that you have. Hiring a professional guide, you're going to get the most out of your time, and you're going to be sure to maximize your experience there. And particularly having professional local guides is even better because they know things better than anyone. So that's kind of, in my opinion, why it's so much better than just trying to go wander around on your own. And particularly with an event like Birding the Border or Learn to Bird, where we are accessing lands that you couldn't even get onto regardless, having that guide we don't even just have guides for you at Birding the Border. We have a guide and a buddy. So the buddy who has been to this ranch before knows the way around, the guide who knows the birds, knows everything about them, that sort of pairing. I mean, you can't really beat that. That's kind of the ideal situation for anyone.
Well, and a lot of our buddies are very good local birders.
Absolutely. Yeah. In my opinion, I think the buddies could honestly be standalone guides in some cases. It's pretty phenomenal.
Well, thank you. I'm sure our buddies listening today with just their hearts are beaming inside. So Martina, why do you think being out with a guide or the benefits of birding with a guide versus just going out and birding on your own is such a benefit?
Yeah, definitely what Bryan said with efficiency. It's like having a cheat code to like the local area. At this, like I should say, you should balance it, but like it's nice to know someone who knows the birds and can teach you those birds, not just tell you, but teach you, is really important. But also that, you can actually, go get your targets. You want to see a green jay, you hire a guide. They know exactly where all the green jays hang out. You might go on, some websites like eBird, and you might look at all the reports, but I know I've done this a million times where I just have gone to a spot. I've never been there before. It's huge. There's a million little back roads, and somebody had a really good bird somewhere on those thousands of acres, like in a refuge, and they didn't put comments or, mention where it was. You're stuck trying to find it. Even if it's a specialty that, is there year round, not too rare, but also, definitely, I like, for me, guides, taught me a lot about birding. Just, especially if you're just starting out, it's kind of like, having for me, again, I'm very hands-on. It's just like having a teacher out in the field, with you, especially if you're going to go on some of these beginning or like beginners trips, talking about all the three things we just talked about, like basically status and distribution, shape of the bird, what habitat it's in. A guide can really give you those insights on those birds. So like my background here is like a bunch of bobolinks, and they like fields. They're migrating through. This was the spring, and if you want to go see a bobolink and you don't know really anything, you can always ask the guide, like, let's go see bobolinks. You're not going to go to the woods. You're going to probably go to some, meadows or pastures or something to find them. And maybe it's summer and they're not, breeding anywhere, in thousands of miles near you. So, you have to wait probably till the fall. So yeah. And I think, I just learned a lot more with guides, and like, it helps you get your, all your target birds, sure, but it also helps you learn a lot too. Just getting a lot of insights on, why this bird is here, why that bird isn't here, that sort of thing.
I think you're so right. We hire guides for Birding the Border and Learn to Bird. And we typically hire Ryan, of course. He's been with us since the beginning. They really have a heart for educating the people they're birding with. And the goal at Birding the Border and all of our Birding with Extension programs is not just to get you the birds you want to see. Our goal is to help you grow as a birder. Mm-hmm. And I think YouTube, as well as the rest of our slate of guides, is going to be a phenomenal group this year. You talked about beginner birders. We have a new beginner track to Birding the Border. So if you are a beginner birder, wonderful guide Bill Sane is going to be leading that one. So we are wrapping up on time. We have literally 2 minutes. So You each get a minute. What are your must-see birds at Birding the Border this year? And maybe what is one social activity that we have that you're excited about? So, Martina, I'll let you go first, but you got to be snappy. 30 seconds.
Well, the birds I'm looking forward to seeing are the green jay, maybe black-capped vireo, maybe golden-cheeked warbler, varied bunting. And I think the dinner with the bats seems really awesome.
It does. Well, congratulations. Yeah. You are our guide for birds, bats, and owls now. You're in.
Woo!
I'm glad you mentioned that because we hadn't assigned that yet. So, Martina, you will get to go out for that for sure.
Awesome. Thank you.
Okay. Bryan.
My can't miss bird is probably going to have to be the tropical parula and the hybrid tropical northern parulas that we get on the Devil's River. They're our feature bird of the Birding the Border this year. And the social event that I think you cannot miss is going to be the welcome social at the winery, because the winery in Del Rio is super fun and great wine.
I'm so excited about that one. Gosh, you just stole my heart. We're gonna have a taco bar, guys. I'm so excited, and we are. It's gonna be awesome. I'm so excited. Queso, so good. Yolanda makes the best queso. So one of the things that you'll have to know, and I know I'm gonna go over my time by 30 seconds here, is we always want to feed you good. And so at our socials, we have the best caterer. She's been with Birding the Border since the beginning with Bryan. Her name is Miss Schuster, and she comes out of Brackettville, and she will be catering our socials, our birds, bats, and owls, and our Birding with Extension dinner. So, Maureen, you have 30 seconds because we are already late, but to tell me what your must-see bird is and your social preference. What you're excited about for our socials.
I don't know that I have a must-see bird. I wasn't thinking about that. I'm most excited for having the guides along with us, though, because I always learn something from a guide, and it doesn't matter how good you are, you still have things to learn. And the social, I'm also super excited about the taco bar at the winery. And just the winery is beautiful, and it's a really unique historical place as well. So
it is the oldest bonded winery in Texas, for those of you who don't know. So we're helping you check your bucket list. It is one of the Texas bucket list must-see things here in Val Verde County. So we're excited about that. And thanks to our partnership with Val Verde Winery for sure. Google them, check them out. So if you are interested in birding at Birding the Border or our Learn to Bird programs, go to our website, wildlife.tamu/birding. Everything, the information you could want to know is there. FYI, Bryan, if you are interested in birding with Bryan, the information is on the website, but he is guiding at Fort Clark Springs, which is this amazing birding oasis in the middle of kind of the desert of Kinney County. And it's actually where Bryan grew up on. And I had a thought, Bryan, have you ever guided on Fort Clark other than for Birding the Border?
Yes.
Okay. I had that thought today. Anyways, I thought it'd been cool. But that's where he grew up, and he has lots of birding. And it's also a good chance to be our most birds list day. Tons of a huge variety of birds love Fort Clark. Then you're guiding at Baker's Crossing, and then Devil's River State Natural Area, in hopes of finding our feature bird. And Martina is going to be guiding below the dam. So we here in Val Verde County have Amistad National Recreation Area, and National Park Service we are lucky enough to be partnering with them to take you below the dam into some restricted access where you get to bird right along the Rio Grande River. You can see across the river and you can see Mexico. Question might be, is that safe? Absolutely. We will we'll have National Park Service people with us, and it's frequently monitored. And the second one you are going to be guiding at is Devil's River State Natural Area again. And then she is also going to be guiding at the Duck Pond. So the Duck Pond is a commonly known birding hotspot. Oh, Bryan, look at that heart.
You're lucky.
Commonly known birding hotspot here in Del Rio. where you can bird from the road. But what people don't know about the duck pond is that there's this whole behind the scene oasis with a series of creeks and irrigation ditches, and it is going to be amazing. We birded that in May, and we just birded it the other day with Bill Stain, and I cannot wait for your list when you take a lot of time birding at Martina and in the middle of migration. I think you could possibly give Bryan a run for his money at the Fort Clark Springs.
We're gonna have to see.
I guess it's gonna be a challenge, you two.
Yeah, we'll have the little competition going on.
I think we can make a prize for it for sure. So everyone, we hope you have a great Wednesday and a great rest of your week. And we will see you later. Bye.